Where monsters rampage, I'm there to take them down. Where treasure glitters, I'm there to claim it. Where an enemy rises to face me, victory will be mine!
These words prelude every episode of Slayer's first season, and what an apt introduction to the series. It not only captures the heart of Lena's character, but the series as a whole. The two are one and the same, really. Lena is Slayers. Her character carries the story from start to finish, and her actions serve as the anime's thesis statement. Granted, that's true for a lot of shows, but I've not seen another series that holds true to that idea more than Slayers. It takes its core theme, living life to the fullest, and expresses it wholeheartedly through its protagonist. When we're introduced to Lena, that's exactly what she's doing. She has no qualms about stealing from bandits to make bank or taking advantage of Gowry's kindness for a free meal. The only thing on her mind is having as much fun as possible while making stacks. Even after the plot with Zelgadis and Rezo starts to kick in, Lena sticks to her guns, charging exuberant prices for her magic items and refusing to let Rezo take over the fight for her. Both of these decisions put Lena's life at risk, but she never regrets it because to do anything else would mean betraying herself. As far as Lena's concerned, living life to the fullest means living life for yourself and no one else. And those ideals are infectious. Seeing them in action is what motivates Zelgadis to enact his plan to betray Rezo and end the Red Priest's life. And that decision, ultimately, is what saves his life. Because if living for yourself is the ideal Lena embodies, the antithesis of that would be living under the control of another, an idea we see expressed through the various antagonists. Rezo may have only wanted to gain his sight, but he did so by serving the whims of Shabranigdo, a decision that ultimately led to his ruin. Eris and Copy Rezo both define themselves exclusively through their connection to the original Rezo, albeit with one doing so out of love and the other a desperate desire to surpass what came before him. Of course, no matter how powerful, terrifying, or monstrous these foes appeared, they all fell before Lena and the rest of the Slayers, and the reason for that is simple. Living under another's control can grant you power, companionship, and many other desirable things, but it's ultimately limited because everything you value can be easily taken away by the one you've given your life to, as seen in the moment when Eris loses her life to Copy Rezo. In fact, the only antagonist to survive the second half of the season is Zangelis, and that's because his warrior's pride leads him to abandon Eris and Copy Rezo in the hopes of besting Gowry in combat. Living for yourself is undeniably the harder path, as we frequently see through Lena's journey, but the flexibility and freedom that comes with it is the greatest reward. Like Zelgadis, who just leaves the party for more than half this season. I love this moment because there's no drama involved. Lena, Gowry, and Zelgadis all consider each other friends, but they never feel the need to stick together. Basically every season of Slayers ends with the party going their separate ways, and it's never portrayed as melancholy or anything. They each have their own lives to live, and they don't always need to be around each other to do that. That flexibility and freedom I was talking about also tends to play a part in how the Slayers interact with their various antagonists. In their battles with Shabranigdo and Copy Rezo, there's always a moment where Lena and the others are completely overwhelmed and choose to run away to keep their lives. What I appreciate so much about this is how the characters are never admonished for doing so. If you're gonna live life to the fullest, you need to actually, live. Sacrificing yourself for a greater cause sure sounds noble, but Slayers isn't afraid to let you know how stupid and wasteful it is in practice.
The thing is, there's still good food left for me to eat, and treasures for me to grab. And if I get tired of studying magic, I can go home and start a real business. Be a girl for a change, maybe even fall in love. Look, it's stupid to go and fight if you know you're gonna die. Men think it's so heroic and noble, but you gotta forget about that load of bull. Once you're gone, that's it. What's so heroic and noble about being dead?
Slayers isn't saying that it's okay to ignore your problems either. Lena and the others don't actually give up their fights against Shabranigdo or Copy Rezo. In both instances, they only run so they can rest and come up with a new plan for defeating the villain. You can't run away from everything if you hope to live your best life, but you also can't relentlessly charge ahead without a plan, or you're gonna ruin yourself. The ideal solution lies somewhere in the middle, where you're unafraid to take on life's challenges, but you also have a plan. Even if life, living like that can cause you to get into trouble. Take the second arc for example. At one point during Lena, Gowry, and Amelia's journey to Cyrag, Zangulis offers to escort the three of them to Cyrag without using force, seeing as it's what his employer more or less requested. Lena swiftly refuses, however, partly because she doesn't exactly trust him to follow through on his words, but also because doing so would put her at the whims of another. Yes, obviously, Zangulis would have led Lena into the same deadly situation with Copyreso, but I think it says a lot about Lena and Slayers as a whole that she had the option to avoid all the trouble that plagues her on her journey to Cyrag, but Lena still refuses this option because it goes against her principles, and that decision ultimately saves her life, since it puts her in contact with Silphiel and begins the chain reaction of events that ultimately lead to Copyreso's defeat. Lena's interactions with Silphiel also highlight another aspect of Slayer's exploration of living life to the fullest, and that's taking complete responsibility for your actions. Lena lives recklessly. She has no qualms about getting into fights or making enemies, but for all that she complains about the trouble she gets into, she accepts every challenge that comes her way unflinchingly, because she accepts the consequences of her actions wholeheartedly. Take the moment when she takes an attack meant for Silphiel and nearly dies. When Lena recovers and Silphiel attempts to apologize, Lena stops her, saying,
Excuse me, Silphiel? Huh? Let's get something perfectly straight. It's my fault I got hurt saving you, understand? Let's make sure we know who the heroine is in this story.
And that's the truth at the heart of Slayers, really. Lena, Gowry, Zelgadis, and Amelia live lives plagued with many challenges, but no matter how stacked the odds are against them, they never forget to have fun and enjoy their lives, because it's one they can all be proud of. That's what Copyreso failed to understand. In his obsession to surpass his progenitor, he never truly lived his own life, and because of that, he fell before Lena, a woman who always lives on her own terms, no matter how much it costs her.
Please tell me one thing. What is it you see when you look into the future?
What do I see? I see a great big beautiful flower.
But what happens when that idea, the idea of living life to the fullest, twists and perverts, when it becomes so powerful and destructive that it develops into what can only be called obsession? That's the question Slayers next asks, and that's to be continued.